Hiya guys, and welcome back to Ades Workshop. I was going to put up an episode of Shed Talk at this stage, but I'm waiting for a few things to come in to get the sort of content that I normally put in Shed Talk, so I was looking for a little project to do in the meantime. Now, a few weeks ago, a viewer told me off. It was when I was setting up I think it was an episode called Setting Up an Accurate Angle with a Compound Slide. And I was tapping the compound slide into position with the end of a spanner, which, yeah, it isn't good practice. You put little dents in everything. Normally, I use a piece of brass, something I've got lying around, but as per usual in the workshop, if you've got a handy sized piece of brass and you think, oh, that'll do to make this, that'll do to make that, and it ends up disappearing. I'll show you what I was doing with a spanner. So I've just loosened off my lock. I go. So obviously I did reply to the viewer and said, yes, point taken, told off, slap on the back of the wrist, that sort of thing. So I've decided to make some little brass tappers, a pair of them, that I can have, on the headstock around the place here, so that I don't end up doing that again. And obviously if I put the work into making one specially, I'm not going to use that bit of brass for something else. So I'll show you how I go about making a couple of brass knockers. So I've just been rooting through my materials to see what I've got to do the job. I've got a piece of 40mm Delrin, way over the top. It only needs to be 20, but I haven't got any 20mm. And I've got a piece of 3/4 brass, or 19mm-ish. So yeah, I'm sure we've got the bits and pieces we're going to need to make the parts. So I'll put the 3-jaw chuck up and we'll cut off our raw stock. So as you can see, I'm fortunate in that the raw stock of brass will fit through the tunnel of my lathe. So I'll just part myself off a couple of pieces. So I got the brass up in the chuck. I've got it stuck out, 65mm. Just line my parting tool up on the end, set a 0. And I think I'll cut off, I think my finish size, let's say 52. Oh, finish size of 50. So if I cut it off 52mm-ish, that should be somewhere near. Leaves me a bit for facing either end. So start nice and slow, because I've got probably about 350mm sticking out the back of the chuck, so I can't go too fast. It's possible it'll start whipping around. Seems to cope alright at that. What am I doing? 650. And I'll just part this off quick. I've locked my carriage. And I'm going to make 2 of these. They were going a bit faster down at this size, but there we go, there's one. So I'll do the same again. Stick it out, say 65mm, same as before, something like it. I forgot to push play on the camera or record, but I've chopped myself off a rough piece, 100mm long. I think what I'll do is just rough this down to about 20mm diameter first, and I've cut it off 20mm longer than it needs to be. And the usual thing with any procedure of making anything in the lathe is face the end off. I think I will put a centre in it. Do I need to? No, I don't really. Thinking out loud, make it up as you go along, eh? That's the hacksaw cut I just did. I think that will have cleaned up quite simply. Yeah, it wasn't a bad shot with a hacksaw, that one. Okay, so I need to rough this down to 20 diameter. I haven't got my lead screw connected. I think it's 40mm at the moment. I've just touched off just over 40mm. So now I can safely take 10mm aside off. So I'll set a 0 there. Let's have a think. Let's try 2.5mm aside. Oh, yeah, it's I'm going to take it gently across here, because I am stuck out a long way. like butter and stuff. Yeah, let's just get rid of that. The further I get into the chapter, the safer it becomes. Less side load on the part. Yeah, I'm going to buzz this down to about 20 mil. Then it'll fit in my collet. So I've got my collet chuck up now, and I'm just going to rough down the bit I was holding on. Again, I'm sticking out a long way, but obviously I'm only holding it on a 20 mil diameter bit. So just going to rough this down to the same size. So the plan is going to be to screw the dowel ring. If I put an M6 hole in the end of the brass bar, put an M6 thread on the dowel ring to screw it into the brass bar, and I can skim all the ODs afterwards. I don't think I've ever threaded. I've tapped dowel ring, but I can't recall ever having threaded it with a die before. I don't see why it shouldn't work. So yeah, I'm going to machine a 6mm shoulder on there, maybe 8mm of 6mm thread should be enough. Yeah. So I faced the end, set a 0, came back to my 8mm, and I faced out. And I've just had a measure. And I've got just a little bit to come off here. Let's have a measure of that. I can see that's over 6mm. Take it down till it looks like a 1/4 inch. That looks like a 1/4 inch-ish, 6.5mm, something like that. We'll have a little measure. Ooh. 6.9 we'll call it. So 0.45 off the side. I'll take point, yeah, 0.45 should be fine. Okay. So hopefully that's 6mm by 8mm back on the shoulder. 5.96, we'll live with that. I'd normally put an undercut in that corner if it was on steel or brass so that the thread goes all the way back, but I think what I'll do is I'll leave that with no undercut. I'll just run the die back to the shoulder, and I think if I do that it'll leave more strength in that little bit of intersection of the thread, and I'll put a chamfer in the end of the brass to allow for the unthreaded bit at the end. I think I'll do that. If I undercut that, it's likely to make it weak, or weaker than it already is. So let's just put a chamfer on the end of there to help the die. I'm not sure if it's to help the die. I'm sure the die would manage that quite alright. A little chamfer on the end, and I'll set up my tailstock die holder with the 6mm die, and we'll run a thread up it. Well, this should be very simple. I got the M6 up, M6 by 1. Yeah, I mean it takes no effort at all. So usual story, up with the parting tool, got it nice and square. Set a 0 on that shoulder. There. And I think I'm going to have the end thickness of this when it's finished to 10mm. So I'll probably part it off about 11mm. Here we go. Just lock the carriage. And hard enough. So there's the basically the little dowel ring insert that's going to go in the one end. So I'm making 2 holders altogether, and I'll make a spare one as well. So you join me no more than 5 minutes later, and I've got the 3 blanks with the threads done. Obviously, once I had all the correct tooling out and all set up for it, I was banging them out, 2 minutes each. So now that I've got those, one for each holder and a spare one, time to get on and machine the brass part. I think the first thing I'll do is face the ends. Again, I'll put them in a collet, face the ends, and drill and tap them with the M6, and then I know I can then hold them on an M6 thread as a mandrel to allow me to attack the whole of the outside. So apologies for the background noise. There's somebody with a little 2-stroke strimmer by the sound of it. See if I can yeah, can you hear it? Well, I can. Not to worry. Right, so that's spaced off. I'll just quickly send the drill it. There we go. Centre drilled out. Change the centre drill. I have prepared it. I've got 5mm drill bit ready to tap in M6. So yeah, I got 8mm thread. I'll probably drill a hole 12mm deep. So let's just get the parallel. There, 12 turns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And 12mm deep. I'm just gauging the 12mm, 12 turns of the handle. It's a 1mm pitch. It's not critical, and 4mm deeper than the 4mm deeper than the depth of thread I need to do. So as long as I put a first, second, and plug tap down in there, we shouldn't have any problem. And I do want to put a taper into there. I'd forgotten about that, to allow the unthreaded part on the end of here to enter. So yeah, I think I can probably do that with. I'll use countersink. There we go. Will that fit in there? I don't think this countersink will fit in that chuck. Ooh. That countersink will. Got a smaller one. It's a sort of 0 to 6mm chuck, this one. Or 0 to 1/4 inch, something like that, I don't know. Yeah, I just put a nice big countersink on there. Yeah, that'll do nicely. And then I'll get the taps out and tap the hole. Again, just hand tapping it with an M6 tap straight in the chuck. Go. Well, there we are. I've just tried it out, and it does fit right into the shoulder, so happy days. So I've got a bit of 10mm silver steel up in the collet now, and I'm going to make a little mandrel. Basically turn it back and put a thread on it. The same sort of idea as that, 6mm thread, 8mm back. And that will allow me to screw the brass pieces onto the end for the machining. So again, only a 2-minute job. It was exactly the same as you saw me do with the dowel ring, and a component. Screw straight on the end, no worries. So my part at the moment is 2mm over length, and that allows me. I've got a little 1mm centre drill, so if I drill in 1.5mm deep, that's a half, that's 1, that's 1.5mm deep, and that gives me a tiny little centre in the end of the part. What I'll do, just with a very small chamfering bit, I don't know whether I can get at it. I can. Just chamfer that edge, and that's just a tiny little pickup for a centre to run in. So I'll do that. So I'm just going to take a skim across the top to clean up. try that. That's done it pretty good actually. I'll take another little pass because I want to do them both the same diameter, and if the other one doesn't clean up on this reading, I'll be swapping them back and forth. So yeah, quick clean across the top. There we are. Speed things up a little. That's a 0.05 aside across there. I'm running at 1400 RPM near enough. Okay. I set a 0 at that point, and I know there's around 2 mil to come off the end, so I'm just going to give myself a finished size here. Just skim it down, leaving that pip in the centre. Now I'll have a little measure. 51.27. Okay. So another 1.27 off there. That was probably a bit keen, that. Okay, 1.27, I'll set a 0. Just face that to that dimension. So I'll put the other one up now. Take the OD and the overall length, the same readings on the DRO. I'll just swap them over, screw it in and finish it like that. And we'll have 2 done up to this stage. So the first thing I'm going to do is put 2 features, find the center line and put 2 features with a 5mm scalloped radius inboard, 5mm radius in probably about 4mm deep, basically to within 2mm of the end. So what I've done is, if I set up parallel to the end of the job, set a 0, come back 30mm, because the overall length, when it's got its insert on the end, the Delrin insert, it's going to be 60mm, so the center line of the part is going to be 30mm back. So I'll come to 30mm, there, set a 0, and my first feature is going to be 15mm from there. So basically the first feature is going to be cut in there, and the second one is going to be cut in 15mm the other side of the center line, so sort of there. And then this feature will be a certain distance from the end of the finished part, and it'll be the same distance from the end of this end when it's got the Delrin fitted. So we'll do this one first. Let's just check we can get to where we want to get to. We can get to there easily. I'm well back off the workpiece at the moment, but yeah, I can get to there easily to cut the radius. Let me just bring my tailstock into somewhere where it's going to live, and if I come the other way 15mm, yeah, I mean that's 16mm, there's plenty, absolutely plenty. Right, so I will now set up the 5mm rad on the tool. Pretty simple to do because I designed it that way, is that if I push it forward 5mm, which is where I am from the outside edge here, I can just use a rule on it. I mean, it's not critical as long as they're all the same, but I'm going to do them all on this setting anyway, with the same readouts, the same figures on the DRO, everything. So yeah, there's my 5mm radius. So I'll just come back out of the way, come across to my 15 over here, which was where I was planning. Where are we? 13, 14. Ooh, come on, 15, right, okay. And I'll just lock my carriage there. I'll bring the center back in, and I'm ready to start cutting. Now let me just see, are you still in shot? Yeah, you can see where I am. I'm going to cut the scallop in here to a point where it gets to within around I mean, it's 5mm from the end. It's a 5mm radius, so I'm not going in the full depth of 5mm. Otherwise, the radius would come right to the lip. So it'll probably be like 4mm deep, something like that. I don't know. We'll see how it comes. But I'm going to leave a small area on the end. I'm going to leave 2mm of parallel. And when I come across to 15 the other way, as long as I go to the same depth, I know I'm going to be 12mm of parallel. So when the plastic and 10mm wide's on the end, they're going to be equal about. Yeah, okay, you get my drift. So I'm going to mark a line on there at 2mm, and then I'm going to start cutting and feed in until I approach the line. I forgot to turn the camera on, but yeah, I'm just taking a little bit of the time. And as you can see, I'm just approaching my 2mm line now. And I actually came back a mil, so I'm only 14mm off the centre, so that I could get a deeper groove before I got to the 2mm. Nearly there. I think, yes, I did. So I've come to the centre point now, and I'm going to put a third one to the same depth, smack bang in the middle. Got a bit heavy on the first couple of cuts. Well, it's more of the same, so I'll bring you back when I'm done. Yeah, that's the first 3 scallops. So I'm going to take this one off now, put the other one up, and do it exactly the same to the other one. So the next stage of the profiling the outside is to put an external radius on these 2 black areas. So I've set the radius back at 10mm, and I've just centered it up so it's touching the peaks of both sides and locked it off, and as it is, it's like 7.05 on my DRO. So I'm just going to gently come in here now, being careful not to cut into the scallops that I've already cut. So not swinging the tool too far round. And I'm just going to machine this to a point where the internal-external radius intersect. Getting closer now. Should be around this point. That's about it. I think I could increase the radius by about a 1/4 mil on the cutter, but yeah, I mean, there's a little lines that I get either side. They can be polished out, no problem. So I should come to 7 the other side. That is somewhere around there, so I'm just looking to see if I cut the peaks at the same time. Oops, a bit deep. So just wiggling back and forth. Wait until I see a scratch. Oh, that side just scratched. Okay, so if that side scratched first, I need to go that way just a touch. And in fact, my readout's reading 7.07. That's smack on 7, so I'm hoping to see a touch. Touch outside, touch outside. Yes, there we are. It's all right. So it's coming along now. That's the ornamentation part done, shall we call it. So I'm going to drop the silver steel right back into the collet now to bring the part back against nearly against the chuck. And I'm going to put a large radius, like a domed face on this end. And I'll keep... So I've set the centre this way, and I've locked the cross slide, so I know my centre of rotation is around the spindle. What I'm going to do now is to dome it from the centre out, and I've set the maximum sort of practical radius I can put on, and it's about a 28mm radius. So what I'll do is I'll slowly start advancing the tool this way. In fact, I might just nip the carriage just slightly, just to give a bit of resistance, and I'll machine a dome on the end. So I don't know how long my battery's going to last, but we'll give this a go. Oh, I haven't pushed it back in the chuck yet. Let's just have a quick measure. How far back can I go without that hitting? I can go back about another, yeah, reduce it by 20mm, so go back to within about 8mm of the chuck. So I'll do that. Okay, so we'll make a start. I think it might shatter a bit, so I'm going to go nice and slowly. So it's just doming over that little scrap bit in the front first. Just catching the outside corner now. There's quite a large radius, so it should clean up in a mil or two. The more I take off, the more it seems to be behaving itself. And I'm just bumping the carriage forward just slightly with every cut. I will speed it up when I do the last cut or two. The polishing cuts, as it were. Well, the demon battery died on me, so I'll just move the charger out of the way. Right, okay. I've domed the ends over. The battery died on me when I was in the middle of it, but you get the gist of how I did it. I will show it. So I've just put one of the bodies up in the collet chuck, and I'll just touch my tool off on the end there, give myself a 0, and just touch off on the diameter. I can feel it there. Give myself a 0, and we'll come away. Right, so the length I want these is going to be 10mm from the face I've just touched off on. Tighten it up, and the diameter I'll just skim them across the top to that, maybe a 100th or something above that 0. So where are we? We've got 0.67 left on that one. I thought I'd left more on than that. Oh, it was about a mil, wasn't it? This is going to get a dome on it in a minute, so actually I think with the plastic I might just put a nice big chamfer on it, I think. Yeah, why not? There's the 10mm. Okay. Come away with you. If I stop, let's go 0.05 from bottom. Just skim across the OD of that insert. Let's just see how that feels. I think I can live with that. I think what I'll do is leave the tool exactly where it is. Skim all three of these parts. I'll just as well do it now while we're on camera. And then I'll change the tool over and chamfer them. Here we are, that's the second one. So, skim the OD, I'll leave the setting where I am. So the final little bit of the puzzle. We'll just put a nice chamfer on here. Reckon 30. Okay, I'll do the same depth for all three. Cool. Oh, a bit close to the tool, but I don't want to move my carriage now because I've got a setting for depth. Again, you get the picture. Straight in with the next one, no change of settings. Tighten it up, start it up. Into the same reading, gives him the same size chamfer. Which is thick. Well, here they are complete. Dowel in one end and brass on the other end, used for knocking things around, tapping things, you know, when you're clocking them up. The idea of the grooves is you've got 3 shallows, and obviously you've got 2 fingers there, one in the middle, and that's the way the cookie crumbles. Now, some people might ask why I made 2, not just the 1. Not for comedy value, as in, yes, okay, not for comedy value. The reason I made 2 is because I'm going to give this one away. So, bit of a competition, guys. I'll give away this knocker and the spare insert. I put a rule next to it for scale so that you can get some idea of how big it is. And what you need to do is guess the weight of the brass knocker with its 1 insert in. I think what we'll do is I'll leave it open for now that anyone can guess the weight. Guess the weight in the comments, and I can review the comments on this video. And by the time I'm editing the next episode of Shed Talk, I'll cut it off at the point where I'm editing the next episode of Shed Talk and reveal the winner, and I'll send it to you anywhere in the world, you know, no problem at all. All you'll have to do is, when I reveal the winner, you'll have to email me on Ades Workshop. It's adesworkshop@hotmail.com with your name and address, and I'll gladly send it off to you anywhere in the world. Okay, yeah, just a bit of fun, guys. I didn't do anything as a giveaway for my 2,000 subscriber. I didn't think it was a huge landmark, but just a bit of fun, and I'm quite happy to send this one off. Probably more useful to people with a small lathe or small equipment rather than somebody with a great big Harrison or something like that, because it wouldn't be, they're heavy enough. You'd want something scaled up to 4 times the weight. But yeah, guess the weight. Put it in the comments below, and when I'm editing the next episode of Shed Talk, I'll close off the competition, and whoever's closest to guessing the weight, in grams if you can, because I haven't weighed it myself yet, but when I do, I can do it in grams. Okay. Well, here we are, guys. A simple, quick little project for the workshop. I'm sure you're going to see it in use fairly often in the future, and I won't be hitting things with spanners anymore. Well, thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to enter the competition, whether you subscribed or not. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. Please feel free to subscribe anytime you like. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you all very soon.